welcome to the Cattlog Heuristics evaluation. I went ahead and compiled this presentation for you, David, and whoever else is looking, and decided to do the screen recording due to our busy schedules. I figured it would be easier to do it this way. That way, I can send this over to you. You can get a full, kind of presentation style format. And if you have any questions, of course, feel free to email or call me, and we can discuss it. But let's go ahead and start. So let's do a kind of a quick introduction of what a heuristics evaluation is. It's basically evaluating a website or an app based on Nielsen and Norman's 10 heuristic principles. And Nielsen and Norman are basically the leads of user research, and they compiled 10 heuristics, or kind of an audit for UX researchers to follow whenever they need to evaluate a site. It's pretty good to do this before the usability testing, just because it's it's fast, it's efficient, and it's cheap, and it's time saving. Usability testing can be kind of a drain on time and cost depending on the situation. So let's talk about what those principles are. First, we have our feedback principle. Feedback principle is basically the visibility of the system status, meaning in this case it's a website. Does the website let the user know what's going on, and depending on what the user is doing. Next is metaphor principle. Metaphor meaning, does the iconography and the typography match what users would see in the real world, or is it kind of bogged down in a lot of technical language or nonsensical icons? Navigation principle is just basically, how does the site let the users navigate around? Does the user have good control and good freedom? And also, if they end up somewhere that they don't want to be on the site, is it easy for them to go back? Consistency principle is seeing if everything on the site in terms of colors and vocabulary is consistent throughout the whole site. Prevention principle meaning, does the site help prevent making errors? One good example of this is Google's search, where if you type in something wrong, they kind of give you an auto-corrected version of the search results. Memory principle is making sure the site relies more on just users being able to recognize the overall information rather than having them memorize or remember specific details. That's just an overload on their memory, which makes it a more frustrating experience. Efficiency principle is, does the site offer things that speed up the process? Another one is, does it allow shortcuts? For example, can they use a keyboard to navigate it? Another example is Amazon's buy now with one click offer that you can just buy something versus clicking on it, and it takes them right to their shopping cart. Next is design principle. Design principle is basically making sure the design of the website is aesthetic, it's minimalistic, is it not distracting? Also, does the contrast and alignment and all that work with the site? Recovery principle meaning, are there error messages that are helpful for the users? If they do something wrong, can they recover from that mistake easily? And lastly, we have help principle, meaning if there's any kind of help documentation or contact or support information, is that easy to access? Alright, so let's go ahead and start with feedback principle then. So the question I asked for feedback principle for this site was, is there a notice that informs users that they've sent a form? So on your site there's a form that the ranchers fill out, and after they submit that, is there anything that lets them know that they've actually submitted it or not? And yes, there is, although it's kind of hard to see due to the contrast of the site. Thanks for signing up. And this contrast element is going to be coming back to haunt us throughout this heuristic evaluation as you'll see later. But for the most part, there is a notice that they have submitted the form. Alright. Next is metaphor principle. I asked, does the copy use natural vocabulary to convey meaning? And yes, it does. So excellent. Good job. Navigation principle. Is it easy to navigate around the site? Can users easily go back or undo if errors are made? And nav menu is simple and easy. It's very straightforward right there. The only thing is the start catalog is confusing because this looks like a play button icon, and maybe users, if they click on this, they might be expecting some sort of, oops, sorry, go back to that. They might be expecting some sort of video to play or something like that. But in reality, all this does is take you to back up to, it scrolls the website back up to the start of the page. So maybe just, there might be a quick fix for that, which we'll discuss later. Okay, consistency principle. Are fonts and colors the same throughout the site? Do words retain the same meaning throughout the site? And the answer is yes, great job. Hot Keanu says, great job. Whoa. Prevention principle. Are forms set up in a way that prevent users from making errors while filling it out? Meaning, are the forms pretty straightforward and easy to follow? And yes, the ghost text that you have implemented here in the clearly kind of labeled headings give users plenty of guidance of how to fill this form out. And seeing that this form is one of the most important aspects of your site, great job at that. Memory principle. Is the site having users just remember the information or having to recall specific details? Whereas the former is the way to go, usually, and then the latter is a bit too much for users to handle. And great job on this. Users don't have to remember much, and information is simple and clear. So good job. Efficiency principle. Any shortcuts? Is it easy to use on a keyboard? This kind of grid layout is very hard to navigate on keyboard. It kind of takes you kind of all over the place, or it just skips right into the form, which is here on the bottom on the side. So, and I'll have advice for that later, but basically it's not it's efficient in the sense that it's kind of a simplistic site to go through, but it's not efficient in the sense of filling out all this form details. Design principle. Is the design clean and simple? Does the design itself prevent errors by making information easy to follow? And as we discussed, we are coming back to this. The white font on this light background is a huge contrast problem. It's extremely hard to read clearly, and it puts a lot of strain on the user. At least that's the hypothesis that I have. It just makes them have to work a bit harder. So yeah, there's that. Recovery principle. Are the error messages easy to understand, and are they specific? Well, I tried to fill out the form, and I intentionally left a few fields blank and hit submit, and I got the same thank you message that I got when I submitted the whole form. So the system itself does not let the users know that they've made mistakes, and the system doesn't recognize it. So that's something that you might have to go back and look at. And lastly, the help principle. Is help documentation or the contact support easy to find? And yes, it's very clear. This is very clear on the navigation. You can click contact and it takes you here, as well as if you just kind of scroll a little bit down, it'll take you right here. So that's very simple and easy to follow instructions. Great. So in conclusion, this is great about the site, and actually this part I'll be sending in a report document, a very short kind of one-page report document detailing about what you've done very well on the site. And first thing, site notifies users when form is submitted. Great. Easy to understand the copy, meaning it's not all fluffy and legalese and technically written. It's very natural. Straightforward nav bar, easy to navigate. Typography and colors are consistent throughout the site. The forum's ghost text and labels make for great error prevention. Information is laid out simply so users don't need to recall specific information. And lastly, it's easy to find the contact and support. So Mr. Bean is happy. I do love my GIFs, so apologies if you hate GIFs. Next, how to create a better user experience. In other words, suggestions of things you might want to change on your site. And again, this section will also be on my report if you just want to quickly go to it and look. So change the background and or font color because the contrast is very hard to see. As I mentioned, that design principle, that white font on the light background is extremely hard to see. The start catalog and navigation either needs to change the icon, or another suggestion is maybe you do have a video about Cattlog. That's pretty common these days to have kind of a little onboarding video, a little interesting kind of snippet. And yeah, that might be a good move there. The grid where users select the number of cattle to buy and sell, it's really hard to navigate on a keyboard. Maybe you should try like a drop-down system. What I mean by that is, if you look on the grid, there's you just kind of select which dot or which range of cattle you want to buy. Rather than that, what if you just had a drop-down where you can select the exact number of cattle, and that in turn might make it easier to navigate around efficiently as well. And lastly, give a notice to users if form is submitted incorrectly. This might be more of a back-end thing rather than a UX thing, but still good to note. But yeah, if you just, these are just very easy. I think some are very easy to do. Some might take a bit more work, but it's not like extremely difficult. But yeah, if you just do these 4 changes to your site, you'll be fine, partner. And yeah, that's it. That's all I had for the Heuristics evaluation. Again, if you have any questions, you have my email and number, and feel free to let me know.